Ayan na. Kamusta naman kayo dyan? Good evening sa ating mga minamahal na followers on Deep Dive with Richard Haydarian. Dito na po tayo sa ating mga latest na pangyayari sa bansa. I hope yung mga iba nakaka-catch up dun sa mahaba-haba natin conversation with Secretary Ronald Llamas. Kahapon talaga nag-Lord Tornaga Samurai mode dahil siguro daming napanalo ng Shogun dun sa Golden Globes Awards na sobrang deserved talaga, sobrang well-deserved. So good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where in the world are you joining us from. So super salamat talaga guys sa inyong patuloy na suporta. To be honest, medyo slow yung start natin to the year. Napansin ko medyo nagdi-deep na yung interest ng tao sa politika towards the end of the year. I mean, understandable yan. It's vacation, among other things. And then, natatabunan na ng kung ano-anong issue. Kanina nakita ko na mga trending ngayon, no? Iba yung yung in order sa Shopee na na ayaw ko naman kayo magbardagulan dun sa mga ano daw, mukha niya daw si Derek Ramsey. Yung in order mo sa Shopee yung dumating. But anyway, wag na tayo pumatal sa mga ano dyan. No, ito guys, grabe nakita ko kanina yung kay Daryl Yap, no? Yung bagong pelikula ni Daryl Yap ukol sa tragic case of Pepsi Paloma. Maraming tao nagtatanong ukol dyan at nakita ko talaga grabe yung online response sa issue na yan. At sa pagkaalam natin, kanina nag-file na ng cyber libel yata ito si ano no si Vico Soto. I would I would imagine na Vico Soto was really severely affected by this dahil I mean obviously this is an issue that has been hanging over him and some people close to him for quite some time, and then some would have, and pwede mo rin sabihin guys na siguro si Vico Soto was also having his moment, 'di ba? Kasi yung pelikula na The Kingdom, I think did pretty well, the one with Piolo Pascual. If you look at yung mga kanyang interviews, or if you look at yung mga kanyang responses, I think Vico Soto looked very fresh. Mas fresh sa akin obviously kasi my goodness, 7 a.m. na kanina ulit, tuloy-tuloy yung trabaho and all of that. No, no, but I think he was having his moment. He felt the movie Kingdom was going to be really helpful. In fact, dun sa Vic Soto, sorry, Vic Soto. Vico yung anak, yeah. Sorry. Guys, sorry. We always talk about Vico Soto, yung si Mayor Vico Soto. Vic Soto, of course, I'm talking about the dad. I'm sorry, sir. Sorry. Sorry na. Ayan na naman tayo, nagkamali tayo. Patawarin niyo na ako, guys. Sorry na, Mayor. Baka naman mamaya personal ng grata tayo dyan sa Pasig naman, di ba? Baka mamaya sabihin na Pasig. Guys, tingnan mo yung mata natin. Pagod na talaga tayo kagabi pa. 7 a.m. every day dito yung mga conference natin. Kakatapos na ng conference natin. So we were invited dito dun sa Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry yung version ng MITI ng Malaysia. So thank you very much sa Malaysian government, particularly the Ministry of Trade and Industry nila for their kind invite. Also kanina we had the pleasure of meeting si yung isa sa ating mga USEC ng Department of Trade and Industry ng Pilipinas kasi nandun tayo sa ASEAN Conference of Economic Opinion Leaders. Ito po yung event na inimbita tayo kanina. So over the past 2 days, tuloy-tuloy, 6, 7 different panel discussions sa mga other things. Alam naman ako, bida-bida rin. Parati may tanong, katulad ni Sir Ronald, yung biglang gigising may tanong na. So, it was a very busy day and all of that, and then tuloy-tuloy yung schedule. Mahirap talaga yung schedule na ganun, lalong dumating ako na 2, 3 a.m. lang kanina. So, pasensya na guys kung Vico Soto, I mean, of course, I know they're different people. Tatay yung isa anak, yung isa mayor, yung isa, I don't know, Itbulaga, whatever. Kaya pasensya na lang guys. But yun nga, actually, medyo, pansin niyo, wala tayong masyadong pinopost kasi medyo sobrang busy tayo, tsaka serious yung mga discussions kasi, a lot of our neighbors are on the move right now. The Malaysians in Johor are bringing in billions of investments from China, from United States. They're bringing huge investments in terms of semiconductors. Sa mga topics na pinag-usapan natin, industrial policy, something that I'm very much interested in, semiconductors. There was a panel on electric vehicles. So to be honest, guys, yung mga kapitbahay natin, they're all on the move, no? Huge investments coming in from all sides, the west, the east, um, technological cooperation. Hindi ko naman sinasabi na nakakaingit yung situation sa ating mga kapitbahay because to be honest, ayoko naman mapahamak dito habang nandito pa tayo. But ang politika ay magulo din sa Malaysia. At kanina rin, kausap ko yung kaibigan natin from Thailand. Actually, I've been talking to friends from Thailand over the past 24 hours. Also, very negative yung news sa politika nila sa Thailand. Grabe, yung kanilang hari ay essentially, alam mo na, mahabang usapan na yan. Ang hirap na yung situation. And then, nakausap pa natin yung isa from Myanmar. Meron tayong kasama din na journalist at opinion leaders kanina kasama natin. May-ari sila ng pinakamalaki na last man standing media outlet dyan sa Yangon. And he was telling me the situation in Yangon is surreal and bizarrely bubble-like in a sense na parang naalala ko yung mga discussion natin sa mga kaibigan natin sa Damascus before na kahit may civil war yung bansa, for a long time, Damascus was a bubble. A capital almost unaffected by the rest of the country in terms of civil war. So, I had some pretty intense discussions dito, guys. Both in terms of technical discussions on industrial policies, semiconductors, and other things. Because I hope people don't forget, actually, I started off, my first book was on economics, impact of trade liberalization and privatization on the economies of Arab countries and how eventually that contributed to the revolutions in those countries. I started also making briefings and studies for insurance companies. I used to do macroeconomic, macropotential analysis on the Philippines. And I do write a lot on industrial policy nowadays, also on semiconductors issues. A couple of my pieces, you can find them online with Philippine Daily Inquirer. So actually, matagal natin pinag-usapan itong economic issues. So thank you sa Ministry of, essentially, Department of Trade and Industry version nila or Department of Commerce version nila dito sa Malaysia for inviting us to be part of this discussion. And to my good friend, Senator Chintong, Deputy Minister Chintong, and of course, also to Undersecretary Safarino, si Perry kanina, Yusek from the Philippines also. Thank you so much, sir. It was really, really fantastic discussion. And I look forward, actually, to having more conversations with Department of Finance, with NEDA. We already had, Dr. Balisacan on our show shortly before he took over NEDA. And hopefully, we'll have discussion also with ito yung mga friends natin sa Department of Trade and Industry and Frederico. So guys, I know sasabi ng mga tao, ito si Richard Purong Duterte, but that's my social media guy. Pero sa ating mga day job, actually we do serious stuff about economics, trade, industry, etc. So, and I'll go back to this because I think Secretary Llamas raised a very important point kahapon about being well-rounded, right? Na dapat lahat tayo pagdating sa politika, we look at the big picture, which is something I'm gonna go back to again. But, fast backward, fast backward. Yes, pasensya na, Vic Soto, I meant. Yung movie ng Kingdom. Actually, I have an issue with the movie Kingdom because if you were to read Nick Joaquin, and if you were to talk to some serious historians, we had very serious historians, like Claudio, Dr. Claudio. We had, of course, senior historians like Dr. Vicente Rafael on this show with us just the other, basically 2 weeks ago, last month. And sa aking palagay, I'm not the fan of the Spanish Imperium. I love the modern day Espanol, the whole thing, the cultura, the architectura, everything. I love their ciudad, Barcelona, Valencia, everything. Ibiza, Madrid, I mean, whatever. But I'm no fan of Spanish colonization. Nevertheless, my point din talaga si Nick Joaquin na sinabi niya, if not for Spain, most likely talagang the Philippines as we understand it would likely not have existed, in a sense that the center of gravity in southern Philippines was more towards either Dutch dominated Indonesia or towards Borneo dominated Britain. And had the Katipunan Revolution succeeded in my region, meaning in Cordillera, had it been successful in terms of yung General Luna's plan to launch guerrilla warfare, yes, I won't be surprised if the Americans would have eventually pulled out and said, this is not worth it, because during the Philippine-American War, maraming mga Americans ay against that war, against colonization of the Philippines, including Mark Twain, among other very influential figures. So maybe the isolationists, the anti-colonial people in the US would have eventually triumphed. But I doubt not seeing Palawan being occupied the British. I doubt not seeing Mindanao, being apart by the British and the Dutch. And of course, you also had the independent Muslim kingdoms there in Mindanao. Siguro, at the end of the day, baka kung nag-civil war pa ang mga Tagalog, Ilocano, which is not also impossible given the Aguinaldo, General Luna dynamics, maybe we would have ended up even with a truncated Luzon, right? Essentially, different cantons, kind of like Switzerland, right? Like you have you have a French canton, you have the Italian canton, you have a German canton. You could have that situation. That's a counterfactual, which is not very impossible. So actually, I have some problem with the premise of yung kingdom na yan, yung idea na what if the Philippines had not been colonized? Well, it's very likely that the Philippines, yung iba-ibang parte ng Pilipinas ay kukunin ng mga iba't ibang empires. Not to mention Germany, even the Prussians had warships here, and of course the rising imperial Japanese forces who occupied Taiwan in the late 19th century, and also Korea. Who knows, maybe the Japanese would have been knocking at the door in northern Philippines. So I'm not saying that okay yung Spanish colonization. I'm absolutely also against the American colonization of the Philippines, but some of the counterfactuals are very, very scary. So anyway, looking at that, parang medyo napatanong ako dun sa premise ng The Kingdom. But from what I understand, maganda yung acting and everything. So siguro talagang in the mood na yan. Kumbaga may momentum na ito si Sir Vic Soto. Sorry, hindi Vic Soto. Vic Soto, and then suddenly itong Daryl Yap movie came about. Naintindihan ko yung mga tao na inis kay Daryl Yap. Alright? I'm definitely not a fan of Daryl Yap, and tinitroll-troll pa tayo dito sa and of course, yung Made in Marites niya na mga walang kwentang, no offense, walang kwentang movie na yung Made in Marites na 1 and 2 na yan, whatever. Which I bothered to watch just for the sake of political and psychoanalysis, right? Um, at the same time, I really don't like this idea na whenever disagree ka sa isang tao, i-cyber libel mo kaagad. You know? We cannot have a situation in this country whereby whenever there's a disagreement, isa-cyber libel mo na naman kaagad yung kalaban mo. Right? Nakakatakot yan, especially if people of influence, people with a lot of money, or people in position of power, political power, basta may wala silang gusto sa sinabi mo sa column mo, sa blogs mo, ganun, kakasuhan ka nila kaagad ng cyber libel. I'm not, I really, really hope ma-decriminalize talaga itong cyber libel issue. Meaning, ibig sabihin, magbabayad ka talaga ng compensation kung talagang walang hiya yung sinabi mo. Kung ikaw ay malisyoso, at ikaw ay may masamang intent, and you want to really destroy a person's reputation, well-being, and undermine their well-being, their image, their reputation, deliberately, yes, there should be a cost. Pero civil suit dapat. But itong kasi ang cyber libel, criminal case yan. So nakakatakot talaga yan. So my fear right now is that the Pandora's box has been opened. Kung sino-sino nagsasampa ng cyber libel. But di ba sila OG Diaz na cyber libel din nung last year, di ba? Tama, OG, di ba? Kasi nung nakita ko si Ogie Alcacid, oh my God, sabi ko sa kanya, sabi ni Ogie Alcacid, Sir, alam mo ba, fan ako? Oo naman, sabi ko. Paano mo alam? Kilala mo ba ako? Opo, OG Diaz. Ay, OG Alcacid, sorry. Oh my God. Parang after that, ayun na akong kausapin. I just lost an important fan. Di sana kameta natin ng big time. But if ever by any chance, whether Vico Soto or OG, Ogie Alcacid na yung kinig sa... Pasensya na talaga, guys. Pasensya na, medyo ano tayo. Alam niyo naman, hindi natin specialty ang mga pangalan ng mga celebrities sa Pilipinas. But anyway, basta yung Tito Boy Soto, malapit na maging senator yan. Balik na naman sa Senado si Tito Boy Soto. No, I mean, going back to this, guys. Yeah, I mean, come on. Lahat na lang isa cyber libel. This is crazy. Agree ako dun sa ginawa, for instance, ni Atom, na pinackage nila yung kawalangyang ginawa nila Badoy sa kanya, sa kanyang ina, yung red tagging na ginawa niya, nakakatakot, pero civil suit. So magbayad ka ng 2 milyon. Hindi ko alam kung may pangbayad yung mga taga-SMNI na yan. Baka napunta kung saan-saan yung budget na SMNI. Kamusta naman dyan si ano pangalan niya? Si Sonza. Si Sonza, laking budget ni Sonza. No, 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 I mean guys, this is ridiculous. Yung last month, 'di ba? Nagsulat ng isang magaling na attorney na naging guest pa natin na attorney star ng na something about yung marathon nila kamukha ni Sanderford. Sino ba yan? Tumatak ng mayor, whatever. Yung yan, nagsampa ng cyber libel. I mean, anong klaseng kalokohan na situation yan, guys? This is ridiculous. Mukha na tayong, we're gonna look like a, we're gonna look like a banana republic. May masasabihin ako ukol dito sa Malaysia, pero wag muna, medyo baka hindi safe. Pero dito naman may version din sila. Hindi naman cyber libel, but they're file a case against if they're against yun na papahamak ka nila. So, it's very unhappy situation. I was talking also to my friend in Thailand na grabe din ang situation sa Thailand. Ang version nila is less majest. It comes, I mean, it has French roots, but it's no longer a modern idea. It's no longer applied in France. But the idea is that pag binastos mo yung estado, binastos mo yung monarch, pwede ka papakulugin. And the idea of binastos mo yung king is so so amorphous, right? Siguro, kanya may national anthem dyan sa cinema sa Thailand, di ka tumayo, you could be accused of insulting the king. I mean, may pictures yung isang hari nila dyan, nag-ano ka na, or medyo pa-sexy-sexy ka, tapos someone take a picture, that could be a less majest case. So, nakakatakot talaga. So, obviously, you could see that could act as a scare tactic, and may chilling effect talaga yan. So, naintindihan ko yung emotion ng ibang tao na nainis ito kay Daryl Yap kasi napakamaritas naman na director talaga yan. But at the same time, the thing also with, and I'm not taking a position on this case per se, no? But the thing also with Daryl Yap is he's very daring and is willing to take on he or she, what, how should I, ano ba? He, she, they, siya, okay? Daring siya. So, I may not agree with what he does, I may not agree with what he says, but sobrang daring siya. And especially to bring this case ni Pepsi Paloma, which, remember, there was actually an inquiry piece about Pepsi Paloma, I think it was an op-ed or something, and then pinatanggal ni Tito Soto, di ba? A few years ago at na-expunge essentially, and you cannot find it anywhere. So, in fairness kay Daryl, matapang siya, everything like that. Ako naman, akin naman is kung hindi siya ngayon na, kung hindi katotohanan yung sinasabi ni Daryl Yap, someone who's not known for, factual accuracy, considering everything na ginawa niyang marites. Or siguro sa bagay, pwede mo sabihin si Daryl Yap, sinayang niya yung reputation niya. Dahil sa itong mga kalokohan na ginawa niya, made in marites this, made in marites that, yung mapapakute niya, pang patrol niya. Because some people would say he's actually not necessarily bereft of talent. Because pagdating sa directorial skills, some would say Daryl Yap actually is one of the very promising younger generation people. I mean, obviously ako, you want a legit young director, my God, hindi pa yata ako nag-reply dun sa greetings. Si Pepe Jokno sa akin ang legit, diba? Pero from a technical standpoint, some would say sayang ito si Daryl Yap. But anyway, ayoko talaga nangyari itong cyber libel every time na nag-disagree tayo. Huwag naman sana tayo ganun guys. Or sana itong Supreme Court, na itong cyber libel, decriminalize na yan finally para matapos na to. And then, kung talaga may bastos na nangyari, kasuhan mo na lang ng civil suit. But as much as possible, we should avoid going legal, etc. Tayo nga, talagang walang yung mga trolls na bayaran na iba kung ano-ano attack sa atin throughout the years. Mga, di ba? Gusto ko igaganon yung mga iba talaga dyan, pero sabi ko, hayaan mo na, wag na patulan, mga tabad na talagang mga walang yang mga kung ano-anong sinasabi. I mean, syempre minsan na ang sakit nung ginagawa ng mga trolls at yung mga walang yan tao just because they don't agree with you politically or they see as a political threat kung ano nang gagawin nilang kwento ukol sa'yo. My goodness. Unlike those low lives, paid, low-brow agitator, propagandist, na pretentious, whatever dyan, guys. We work so hard here every single day. People are following, as you can see, every single day. By the end of the night, grabe, puro eyebags natin nakalabas. You can see yung output natin. Every day we try to write something, publish something, get something through. Every day we're doing one project, another project, trying to contribute to the country. Grabe. So I mean, integrity is everything for us. And the reason why I work so hard and I always make sure is because I want to be independent. I want to make sure that no one can influence me, that I can be my own guy. And thank God, we're slowly building our platforms. And sana, eventually, my plan is, to make my own think tank, make my own institution, kind of like an anti-corruption foundation yung ginawa ni Alexei Navalny sa Russia. I mean, that's my hope. And use my social media platforms, use my policy connections, use my connections to different, ministries around the world for projects, research, advocacy, yung mga ganun ang gusto natin. But anyway, grabe ng situation. Sobrang grabe na. Pati si Rufa May. Rufa, hindi kay Rufa May. Ito tama na. Di ba meron ganun si Alexei Navalny, that Anti-Corruption Foundation. You can check it out. Ito si Rufa May. Ano bang nangyari kay Rufa May? My goodness. Puro mga dramatic na picture na pinapakita nila. So may kaso yata si Rufa May, yung sa beauty queen product. Oo. Ito yun, di ba? Ano ba nangyari, ate? Ito. Actually, just to be clear, guys, yung expression natin, kamusta naman kayo dyan, guys? Kamusta naman kayo dyan? Ano naman dyan? Actually, sa kanya ko kinuha yan. Yung mga, natin, yung mga pangpaasar ko, yung mga, kamusta naman dyan, Mayor? Tapos yung mga binubuli natin, ano ba naman yan? Yung mga, actually, may nakapansin, wait lang, parang kay Rufa May mo kinuha yan. But well, I'm glad na she was able to post bail yata. Kasi nagkaroon yata sila ng issue dun sa Security Exchange Commission and I don't know kung sinasabi na scam yung ginawa nilang skincare, whatever. Ito yung quotation, no? Hindi ko alam kung legit to. Sabi ni Rufa May, um, kasi po ako po ay komedyante, hindi po ako negosyante. Sabi niya. Kaya never ako nag-nego-go-go show. Is this for real? Is totoo ba yan? Nego-go. Kasi nakita ko yung mga pictures niya. Tapos yung purong tawa yung emoji. Sabi ko, di ba may kaso yan? Seryoso to? Ewan ko I won't be surprised if she really said that. Diba? Sabi niya, kumbaga, kailangan lagi i-clear ang dapat i-clear. Harapin ang dapat harapin. Kasi po, ito yung Konyo edition. Kasi po, ako po ay komedyante. Hindi po ako negosyante. Kaya, never ako go, show. Like, okay to. I mean, that's resilience. I hope ma-resolve yung legal case niya. Dami natin pinag-usapan na may kaso. But ito kay Rufa May medyo go, show. Yan, gaganin natin si Sir Ronald. Si Sir Ronald, nagre-reklamo. Sabi niya, wala nga ako na kinikita dito sa mga natin. Puro mag lang at t-shirt. Excuse me, sir, ha? May mga binigay tayo dyan. Yung mga Johnny Walker. Hindi applicable sa akin yan. Na ay nag-appreciate naman na ating mga special guests na patuloy-tuloy. Go, show. But anyway, wait, totoo ba? I want to see the video. Mukhang legit yata ito. Ano. Now, let's go back serious tayo, guys. Ang hindi kasi naintindihan ng ibang kababayan natin is, kung patuloy na magulo yung ating politika ng ganito, sobrang daming mawawala sa atin. Sobrang daming mawawala sa atin. Alam mo, sobrang ganda sana yung position ng Pilipinas ngayon. Dahil sa totoo lang, ang dami natin advantages bilang isang bansa. Totoo yan na napag-iwanan tayo ng ating mga kapitbahay sa maraming bagay. I mean, actually nasaktan ako nung sinabi ng isang editor dito, how many Singaporeans or Malaysians who have been visiting London every other year but have never visited Manila ever. Kanina may nakausap ako ng Malaysian Singapore, sabi na hindi pa niya binisita ang Manila since 1997 Asian financial crisis, whatever. So, Whatever, going back to this. Itong walang yung troll na to, umayos kayo dyan. Mm, nakakalungkot talaga itong nangyari sa ating bansa, guys. Kasi meron na tayong historic opportunity to finally turn things around. Yung ating pagkain, mas kinakilala na finally. Where I think our food is finally getting more recognition it deserves. Hindi lang the adobo, caldereta, menudo, the Espanol influence one, but also sinigang, for instance, sisig, among other things. Um, Medyo gumaganda rin yung imahe ng bansa natin, especially thanks to sa ating mga kababayan who are working in the healthcare sector. Shout out sa mga Filipino nurses, Filipino doctors, professionals, but of course, all Filipino OFWs, etc., who are giving really a good image to the country. Pag sinabi mong Filipino, I've talked to Aussie, Kiwi, British, Canadian, whatever. All of them say, nako, if not for you Filipinos, our healthcare system would have collapsed a long time ago. Sobrang love na love nilang Filipinos. So thank you for acting as great ambassadors for the country. And including sa mga followers natin dito, marami sa mga followers natin dito, mga Filipino-American nurses na may paki talaga sa bansa. Tuloy-tuloy yung suporta sa atin dito sa Pilipinas. Now, going back to this, meron na tayong finally chance technically we're still the fastest growing economy in Southeast Asia. Neck to neck tayo with Vietnam. I was talking to my professor friends from Thailand yesterday, and based on calculation niya, Vietnam will overtake Thailand in terms of gross domestic product size in the next 5 to 10 years. So that means if the Philippines also keeps going in terms of its growth rate, we will be the second largest or third largest economy in Southeast Asia within a decade. And most likely we could be on the cusp of achieving $1 trillion gross domestic product by the end of this decade, so 2030 or 2031 or two. And it is 50% chance at least, if not more, na makamit natin yung upper middle income status of just above $4,600 World Bank threshold by this year or God willing next year. So, andyan na tayo, guys. Almost nandyan na tayo. When I say nandyan na tayo, hindi tayo first world. Hindi tayo, we're not there in terms of being out there. But in terms of, at least, hindi na sobrang kawawa, pangit, tingin sa atin. At medyo nakikita mo yung respeto. I can feel that the respect, the recognition, eto na, Filipinos are finally coming back. I'm not talking about our singing talent and all given name, but I'm talking about our economy. I'm talking about our heft. I'm talking about our diplomatic influence. So nasasayang talaga ako kasi kanina I was talking to my Thai friends and they were telling me if hindi sana dun sa gulo nila sa Thailand, di sana mas mayaman pa siguro ang Thailand sa Malaysia in per capita income. I think Malaysia's per capita is closer to $12,000, so they'll soon become a high income country. Thailand has been stuck at around $8,000 per capita for almost a decade right now. And I was telling them actually another country I know very well or quite well I would say is Turkey. Turkey and Thailand are very similar countries, two countries with very problematic political history of constant military interventions, etc. And when Thailand had Thaksin, Turkey had Erdogan. I'm not a fan of Recep Tayyip Erdogan on so many levels, but I think in certain areas he gets certain things right. But if you look at the trajectory of two countries, Thailand and Turkey, yung Thailand went through repeated military in the end, Thaksin pa rin ang in charge ngayon. And then Turkey, essentially, it's Erdogan beating everyone and staying there. Turkey right now, its GDP is I think almost twice bigger than GDP of Thailand, and or at least 50% bigger if I'm not mistaken. So ang layo ng narating ng Turkey, and now Turkey is considered major power in the Mediterranean and the Middle East. Habang pagdating sa Thailand, no one even talks about Thailand as an ASEAN influential country. They have been completely sidelined. Um, And Thailand has been growing at 1, 2, 3% per year. Sobrang nag-slow down yung economy nila. So you clearly can see, kung magulo yung politika mo, even a country as dynamic, as successful as Thailand, has essentially lost a decade of prospective growth and transformation. Ang dami nilang level up na pwedeng gawin. And now, the Vietnamese, who always used to be half as rich as the Thai, who used to be always the poorer cousins or neighbors, the Vietnamese are knocking on the door and soon can overtake Thailand. But the Philippines, as I said, interestingly, it's not like walang nangyari sa atin. We're also growing very fast. Unfortunately, it's not trickling down very well. Unfortunately, the real wages are not increasing as much. But we're growing 5, 6, 7%, 5, 6, 7%. If we can continue, this will be $1 trillion GDP, etc. We'll be well on our way, right? To becoming the second or third largest economy in ASEAN, which is proportional to us being the second largest, most populous country. So, kaya nasasayangan talaga ako na joke time talaga yung bansa natin pagdating sa politika, because as bad as politics is dito sa Thailand, by the way, Vietnam, alam niyo rin naman, magulo din ang si Vietnam, no? Tatlong presidente ang natanggal over the past 2.5 years or so. Ang daming reshuffling nangyari. Siyempre, hindi democratic ang Vietnam, so hindi mo nakikita yung internal, pero daming purge na nangyari. Singapore also is going through transition. Ay, may away kapatid din, yung mga literally away kapatid din yung Lee family over yung heritage house ni Lee Kuan Yew. So, like, and then Indonesia, my goodness, with Prabowo, mahabang usapan niya. Minsan Duterte, minsan Marcos, minsan both. Magulo. Minsan Marcos Sr., minsan Digong. So it's not like we're like in Scandinavia and then tayo lang yung magulo. It's not like we're the Italians in the Scandinavian peninsula. That's not the case. But what I'm saying is, at least yung mga ibang kapitbahay natin ay they have made already huge leaps before going through political crisis the way they have been going. Like Thailand's GDP per capita is almost twice the Philippines for quite some time. Vietnam, sobrang ganda ng momentum niya. Kaya kahit magulo yung politics niya dahil ang daming investments na pumapasok from China, West, etc., tuloy-tuloy pa rin. Malaysia, sobrang gulo yung politics, pero ang liit ng population ng Malaysia eh. Wala pang 30 million yata. Tapos napakayaman sa oil. People forget Malaysia is an oil-rich country. It's a small population, oil-rich country. Not Saudi Arabia level, but not too far. I would say Oman level, at least. Oil-rich, mid-size, small-size, Muslim majority country. That sounds like Oman to me, right? At the very least. So, madali para sa Malaysia, no, to keep going. And then the other thing with Malaysia is katabi nila ang Singapore, ang pinakamayaman na bansa sa Asia, and second or third richest country on earth. Can you imagine, Singapore's per capita income right now is even higher than Qatar, or almost the same level as Qatar. So, it's comparable to Luxembourg. Ganyan kayaman ang Singapore ngayon. So, ang daming mga Singaporeans na nag-i-invest or bumibili ng gasolina or nag-shopping sa Malaysia, etc. Kasi mura ng gasolina dito. And a lot of companies are moving out of Singapore and moving their headquarters and operations to Johor, Malaysia. So, napakaswerte ang Malaysia. It's next to Thailand, it's next to Singapore. It's an oil-rich country, small population. So, and then Indonesia naman, what Indonesia has is this. First of all, they're higher than us in terms of per capita income. They're already above $5,000. They already achieved the upper middle income status for almost half a decade before pandemic pa. And what Indonesia has and we don't have is economies of scale. Ang laki kasi ng Indonesia, 300 million people, 18,000 islands. So yung Indonesia has essentially that heft and size, which allows them to bring in investors, because the idea is that if you're a big manufacturing company, you want to go to Indonesia because you want to have direct access to the markets of 150 million middle class Indonesians. That's huge number of people. So kaya may negotiating power ng Indonesia eh. And I don't know if napansin niyo recently, Indonesia, they imposed they threatened Apple yata na if you import Apple products, some of it has to be made in Indonesia. They imposed some restrictions on TikTok in terms of business and revenues. They imposed restrictions on mining companies in terms of processing of ore and basing. So ang kagandahan kasi ng Indonesia is meron silang scale and size, so that gives them a lot of negotiating power, something that China used even on the larger scale very effectively for a long time. So kumpara sa kanila, medium-sized country tayo. So that's why nasasayangan talaga ako, guys, dahil saan ka ba naman nakahanap ng bansa yung vice-presidente mo openly sasabihin niya, may kinausap ko na assassin na papatayin na itong presidente na to. Even if sasabihin niya, conditional yan. I mean, whatever ek na sasabihin naman. My goodness, that doesn't reflect well. When you say Philippines politics right now, oh, you mean the vice president said will kill the president and the first lady? You know what I'm saying? Oh, you mean the former president saying to the military, maybe you want to take, get rid of the government now kasi fractured yung government? Mahirap tayong siseryosoin ng mga investors sa mga other things. And then not to mention, even assuming for the sake of argument, matinong presidente si BBM, para naman siya mag-focus dun sa mga kailangan natin gawin. Whether ito ay sa infrastructure, whether ito ay sa utility, whether ito yung mga basic structure reform, red tape corruption. Although actually, mas maganda yung score natin sa corruption index this last year than under Duterte. So, if you want to talk about Farmali, you want to talk about Pogos, perceptions of corruption in the Philippines during Digong, go ahead, be my guest. You want to talk about confidential funds ng hundreds of millions, billions ng mga Dutertes, go ahead, talk, be my guest. So, nakakasayang talaga tong situation na to. Ako, marami talagang pagkukulang si BBM. And to begin with, BBM was never an ideal president, no offense, because he's not a anong mga na-achieve niya sa buhay before he became president? No offense. On his own terms. Hindi dahil Ferdinand Marcos Jr. siya. So he was never really an impressive person. But, the Dutertes are really making it horrible. They're not making it easy for any of us here who are trying to say Philippines are worth investing in. For Philippines is a serious country. For all of us who are saying, eto na, Philippines is breaking out. And for us to flirt with political crisis, revolutionary government, people power, just when we're finally growing fast and finally putting our things together, my goodness, you want to be Thailand or worse, at half the per capita income of Thailand? That's economic suicide. We cannot afford it, guys. We cannot afford political crisis. We cannot afford revolutionary government. We cannot afford this mess and mumbo jumbo everything. So, really, really, I hope for the sake of the country, matapos na itong kalokohan na ito, itong suspicion ko talaga, itong suspecha ko, and you could see it, I've been already turning quite skeptical since last year pa. Especially after yung speech ni BBM na never say never. Ako sa aking palagay, it looks like admin's strategy is just hoping ma-contain lang nila yung mga Dutertes. Containment strategy. Essentially, containment strategy. Yun yung plano nila. So, containment meaning, hindi mo ipapakulong ang mga Dutertes sa mga krimen nila or alleged krimen nila. Hindi mo impeach si Sara Duterte sa kanyang alleged abuses of office. And despite all of the grounds that were raised by not one but 3 different complaints, there's a 4th complaint supposedly in the pipeline. Essentially, hayaan mo lang yung mga Dutertes to be Dutertes. Just make sure hindi sila actually will be in a position to agitate a coup d'etat or act in seditious or insidious way. So it's a containment strategy. Essentially, yun lang yung mukhang default option nila. Yan mo na, sige lang, mainit lang ulam yan, frustrated lang yan. Let's just, democracy naman tayo, let it be, ganyan. Which, as you clearly saw in our discussion yesterday with with Secretary Llamas, it's visual thinking. Because I think the Dutertes are really in a revenge mode. And the idea that you can contain the Dutertes, and the Dutertes are willing to wait all the way until 2028 to have a chance at regaining the Malacanang. Because, if you are Dutertes, you're not gonna take any more chances. First of all, ano yung kasiguraduhan na si Sara ay mananalo sa 2028? Walang kasiguraduhan. Rafi Tulfo is doing better than my surveys. Who knows? Walang kasiguraduhan what's gonna happen with their popularity between now and 2028 because Sara Duterte's numbers are now down to just 50% with 28% disapproval rating. So maybe some part of them would want to change things before 2028 and not wait. And if by some chance they come in 2028, yari lahat talaga. Probably they'll go for constitutional change right away in massive cases and everything. At hindi lang dama yung mga kawawang katulad natin na small time na mga progressives, talagang damay-damay yan, but yung mga Marcoses and mga other things. So I'm not really sure the containment strategy is a strategy or will it work. I really don't think I don't think that's gonna work. So that really leaves me with one idea. And my idea is going back to this. I really suggest everyone, especially dun sa mga ibang kaibigan natin na mukhang walang sense of whatever sense of conscience or whatever sense of human rights, um, read this New York Times piece about Matobato, about his ordeals. Etong tao na to, na allegedly nag-work for Superman, aka Digong, he did so many horrible things. Oh, so many horrible things for Digong and for the drug war. Their part here, which is like nag-cannibalize pa sila for solidarity building. I mean, it was like scary and all of that. Mukhang itong tao na to, sobrang na hunt siya. He's a haunted man, like literally, spiritually, everything. That he risked it all to expose Duterte since 2014 pa lang. So more than 10 years na siya willing to testify. And now finally, it looks like he will testify for ICC. At the end of the day, it might all go down to these guys that if Matobato provides yung final silver bullet in terms of evidence gathering for ICC, if the ICC is ready to go and file cases, I'm telling you guys, I'm telling you guys, I'm telling you guys, Marcos has to face the moment of truth. I know takot siguro siya sa mga Dutertes, takot siya na magkagulo, and I won't blame him because if you look at it, tingnan mo yung South Korea ngayon, di ba? Hirap, but South Korea, hirap na hirap yung police and all of that to arrest yung former president, si Kim Jong-un, si President Yoon na gusto mag-martial law the other month. It's not gonna be easy to arrest Duterte. Magkakagulo talaga yan. But we have a secret weapon. We have General Torre. No, but seriously, in the end, it might all come down to the ICC. Because yung Quadcom hearings, saan napunta? Yung mga sinasabi ng DOJ investigations na saan napunta? Yung NBI investigations, saan napunta? Impeachment complaints, saan napunta? So it might, at the end of the day, still go down to the grinding, impossible, frustrating, whatever, the ICC process. So at some point, perhaps the best option BBM has is to let the ICC do its job, which is to hold the horrible people behind horrible crimes against our own people accountable, or at least give it a chance for the wheels of justice to move forward. So all we have seen from the BBM camp and all is signaling, posturing, patikim, papitik, Democles sword. I won't even call it Democles sword. It's more like, I don't know, shadow boxing. I think some of them are looking at containment. But maybe maybe the ultimate clincher could be really be the ICC. So, fingers crossed. I hope Mr. Matobato will provide what needs to be provided, because that's the least he can do for all of the people he killed and for all the horrible crimes he has committed. That's the least he can do. And for BBM, the least he can do is to just let the wheels of justice to move forward. And if the domestic justice system is not, like, fill in the blank, if all of these hearings, whatever, wala rin napuntahan, then at least let the serious people do their job. Do their job. All right? On that note, thank you very much, guys. Maraming salamat for your continued support dito sa ating mga different platforms, podcasts, and mga other things. I suggest you guys actually read about hindi lang read the article. There's a podcast version of that on New York Times podcast. Listen to it because Hannah Beach, who is a good friend of mine, herself narrates it. It's even more emotional. Mas malungkot, mas masakit siyang pakinggan. Ang daming taong pinatay na inosente na pinagtripan lang. Sobrang dali na sabihin, ay, drug addict lang yan, ganun. May mga dalaga na ni-rape at pinatay lang nila dahil natag lang sila as drugista. I mean, horrible things happen. If there's one thing worse than corruption, corruption is a horrible thing. And I support what Justice Scarpio, Cello Magno, all of the civil society groups are doing when it comes to holding the Marcos administration accountable in terms of alleged or perceived or real anomalies or irregularities or fiscal scandals, whatever. But one thing worse than corruption, guys, is mass murder. It's taking away people's lives, sniffing away lives, raping, killing, all of these horrible things that, according to Matabato, happened in Davao and continued en masse on the national scale once Mr. Superman became the president of the Philippines. And I'll tell you what, if nothing is done about this, whether by the ICC, whether by BBM, whether by anyone who can do anything about this, the Dutertes will come back. I've been warning about this, especially when nanalo si Trump. I said, do not count out the possibility Dutertes come back. Not because they're amazing and so smart and all, they're not. But because yung mga kalaban nila, so Dutertes may still win by default. And for now, it's a guerrilla warfare mode. And as I said, as Henry Kissinger put it very pithily, if you're a guerrilla, all you have to do to win is not to lose. And from a guerrilla warfare standpoint, the Dutertes are so far winning, I'll tell you. And the tide has turned in their favor. So let's see. Let's see. Let's see if maybe in the end it still goes down to the ICC. It goes down to the ICC. Thank you very much, guys. Really, really maraming salamat. I mean, these topics are really tough, really hard, really enervating, really emotionally exhausting, really frustrating. Nakailang episodes na tayo, pabalik-balik dito. Nakita niyo kahapon si Sir Ronald, pikon na eh. Di ba? Sabi ko nga sa kanya, di ba? Galaw-galaw. Baka, di ba? Parang chill lang. I mean, you saw me. I mean, I and Ronald, we can be humorous and all, pero talagang pikon na si Sir Ronald kahapon. And of course, may mga pinag-usapan kami off the record na hindi ko pwede share. Based on his conversation with, people who know what's going on or what's not going on, supposedly. Pikon na pikon talaga si Sir Ronald kasi grabe na daw. Grabe na yung diffidence, lack of strategy, lack of decisiveness. Yari talaga tayo dyan if something big doesn't happen. So we're putting our hopes in repentant people to do their job, to provide the witness and testimony that is necessary. And finally, to deal with the greatest crime, worse than corruption, en masse killing, massive killing. And who knows? If something happens on ICC, it opens up a Pandora's box. Or actually, better metaphor, because Pandora's box, there's a debate about, the ontology. More like, can of worms in terms of all of these cases na pwede ma-file. Yun kulang yung clincher na yan. Yung clincher na yan. Thank you so much again, guys. Really, really thank you so much for your I'm telling you guys, this is emotionally difficult talaga. Sabi ko nga sa inyo talaga etong podcast na to, this podcast really is a therapy for all of us. Kasi when I was talking to my friends from Thailand, Myanmar and all, grabe rin yung mga kwentos nila eh. Grabe rin yung mga kwento sila. You know how I ended the story? And I said, ganito na lang guys. As bad as things are, do not forget. Do not, please, do not forget that there are a lot of people that are having it way worse than us. Kaya nga idol na idol ko sila, Alexei Navalny, among other things. I mean, going against the Putin regime, going against some of these horrible authoritarian regimes, we don't need to name names. Women, teenagers, successful people who risk it all, guys, wala tayo. I always tell that to myself. As frustrating, as painful as it is, wala tayo. Our sacrifices are nothing compared to them. But at the same time, I care about sacrifices of Senator De Lima. I care about sacrifices of Senator Trillanes. I care about the sacrifices of all of these people, Las Cañas, Matabato, who are risking their life. They could be killed anytime. They could have been killed all these years. Matabato was stuck how many years? Nakatago dito sa Pilipinas bago umalis this year. They could get killed. They could get assassinated. Something horrible. I mean, guys, Percy Lapid. Ano nangyari kay Percy Lapid? Do we have justice on Percy Lapid's case? Ilang taon na? Nakakatakot po ito eh. Nakakatakot talaga po ito. Nakakatakot talaga po yung mga hinaharap natin na sitwasyon sa ating bansa. And I really hope we'll have some resolution on these issues because a lot is at stake. Our conceptions of ourselves as Filipinos, our Christian and monotheistic values, if you're Jew or Muslim, basta our Abrahamic values, if I can put it that way, yung dangal na ating bansa, yung kinabukasan na ating bansa, yung integridad ng ating institution, our sanity, our hope, our sense of hope. I mean, what about the kids? What about the next generation, for heaven's sake, right? So yeah, please pray, but also fight. There's this expression that says, from God, the blessing, and from you, the movement, from you, the action, right? From you, the building, right? Blessing from the Lord and building from you. So we should continue to fight the good fight, right? And as one great rabbi said, we should be instruments of God's justice on earth, right? So this is the little contribution we have here. So I genuinely hope that people, I know some people enjoy na nagdedebate tayo, nagbabardagulan tayo, but actually all of this is in the spirit of really figuring out what the heck should we do, what is the best way, what is the responsible thing that people like us can do para hindi tayo magpagamit sa itong kampo or magpagamit sa itong kampo, because we don't want to choose any of them. Neither nor. Very Trotsky, right? Neither nor. But they're levels of evil. And there's the greater evil always that we have to keep our eyes on. So please continue to pray and support us, and spread the word. Spread the word. Ask more people to follow us, to listen to us. I saw some comments about some celebrities supposedly following us. I don't know, but whoever's following us, please tell them, to keep on spreading the good message. Kasi ako, limitado lang naman mga gawa natin. Sino ba naman tayo? Ano lang naman tayo? Vlogger lang naman. No, you get what I'm saying, right? On that note, thank you very much. God bless, and talk to you soon.